Champions aren't born, they're built. They're forged through sweat shaped by struggle and defined by the choices they make when no one is watching. If you want to be great, you don't wait for opportunities, you create them. You don't settle for what's comfortable, you push beyond it. The mindset of a winner isn't about talent alone, it's about discipline, perseverance, and an unbreakable will to succeed. The journey to the top isn't for everyone, but if you're willing to commit, to sacrifice, and to outwork everyone else, then step up, because this is where the elite are made. Introduction. If you really want me on your team, how do you approach recruiting me? If you want first place, come play with me. If you're fine with second place, look elsewhere. I used to watch Magic and Michael perform incredible feats on the court and ask myself, can I reach that level? I wasn't sure, but I was determined to find out. That drive, that hunger to achieve something greater, fueled everything I did from the moment I picked up a basketball. It wasn't just about playing, it was about mastering the game, becoming one with it, and ultimately leaving my own legacy. From an early age, I realized that talent alone wouldn't be enough. Watching the greats wasn't just entertainment for me, it was education. I studied their every move, their footwork, their decision-making. I wasn't content with just admiring them. I had to dissect their greatness, break it down, and incorporate what I learned into my own game. The challenge wasn't just about reaching their level, it was about surpassing it. And the only way to do that was to work harder than anyone else. Kobe's work ethic. Everything I did was focused on improving as a basketball player. Everything. When you adopt that mindset, the world itself becomes a resource, a vast library filled with knowledge to help you sharpen your skills. Because when you know exactly what you're seeking, the answers tend to present themselves. A lot of people talk about my work ethic, but what was it really like? And how long did I stay committed? The answer? Every single day for 20 years. It was a constant process of identifying strengths and weaknesses and figuring out how to refine them. It wasn't about taking shortcuts or relying on natural ability. It was about relentless improvement, about finding ways to get better even when others thought there was no room for growth. Take my jumping ability, for example. My vertical was 40 inches, not 45 or 46 inches. My hands were big, but not massive, so I had to develop strength to palm the ball and execute moves effectively. My quickness was good, but not extraordinary. My speed was solid, but not off the charts. That meant I had to rely more on skill, leverage angles better, and deepen my understanding of the game. But I loved that process. From the moment I started watching basketball, I studied it relentlessly, and that never changed. For me, training wasn't just about working hard, it was about working smart. I broke down every aspect of my game into small components: shooting mechanics, defensive footwork, ball handling skills, mental resilience. Each of these was a puzzle piece that I needed to perfect. That's why my workouts were designed to push me past my limits, to simulate the most challenging moments I would face in a game. When others were sleeping, I was in the gym. When others were taking a day off, I was getting up thousands of shots. The idea of not giving 100% never even crossed my mind. Beyond the physical aspect, the mental side of the game was just as important. I studied film obsessively. Not just my own games, but the games of the greatest players before me. I analyzed their tendencies, their decision-making under pressure. I wanted to understand the game on a level deeper than anyone else. That's what separated me. I wasn't just playing basketball, I was mastering it, treating it like an art form. Some people say I was intense, and they're right. I demanded the best from myself and from those around me. If you were on my team, you had to be willing to push yourself beyond what you thought was possible. There were no excuses. Either you were committed or you weren't. Winning was the only option, and anything less was unacceptable. I believed in setting the highest standard and then doing whatever it took to meet that standard every single day. The work didn't stop when I left the court. I took care of my body like it was a machine. Ice baths, stretching routines, recovery sessions, every detail mattered. Nutrition, sleep, mental preparation, it all played a role in my ability to perform at the highest level. And I never let up. Even as I got older, I adapted my training to keep my edge. I wasn't willing to let time slow me down. I found new ways to stay dominant. It's the Mamba mentality. It's not just about working hard, it's about an obsession with improvement. It's about never settling, never accepting limitations. It's about knowing that greatness isn't given, it's earned, day in and day out. And for me, that journey never stopped until the day I walked away from the game, the mental switch. For me, mental separation was crucial. Whether at practice, training, or in a game, I had to switch my mindset completely. It was like Maximus Decimus Meridius in Gladiator, picking up the dirt, inhaling its scent, knowing it was time to go to battle. That was my trigger. The same applies to preparing for a film role. You immerse yourself fully in the character, locking into that mindset. When you step into that space, nothing else exists. And when you leave, you transition back. But when I'm in that zone, don't talk to me, don't touch me, just let me be. I was completely locked in, and nothing could pull me out of that headspace until the battle was over. This mental switch allowed me to push through exhaustion, pain, and even doubt. If my body was tired, my mind took over. If I was hurting, I reminded myself that pain was temporary. The ability to separate from external distractions and lock in on the goal was what gave me the edge. When I was in that mode, it was all about execution. Get over yourself. How did I build the mental and emotional strength to not let things bother me? You have to look at the situation realistically. For me, it was simple. You have to get over yourself. It's not about you. You might feel embarrassed, but in the grand scheme of things, you're not that important, so get over it. If you're worried about how others perceive you, say you shoot 5 air balls and feel humiliated, move on. The key is to analyze why it happened. In high school, we played about 35 games a season, with plenty of rest between them. The NBA, it's relentless. Game after game, night after night. I didn't have the legs. Every shot was on target, but they all fell short. The solution? Get stronger. Adjust my training, tailor my weight program for an 82-game season so that when the playoffs arrive, my legs are ready and my shots reach the basket. The problem was clear, so the answer was simple. Fix it. Done. I never let failure define me. If something went wrong, I took it as a lesson and used it as fuel. There's no time to dwell on mistakes when you're focused on growth. Greatness doesn't come from fear of failure. It comes from using failure as motivation to be better the next time. Goat Mountain. Were there players I considered just as relentless as I was? Absolutely. I called it Goat Mountain. I went to the legends, Magic Johnson, Michael Jordan, Larry Bird, Hakeem Olajuwon, Jerry West, Oscar Robertson, Bill Russell. I sought them out and asked, what did you do? What were your experiences? I wanted to understand their mindset, the nuances of their preparation, the way they approached not just the game, but life itself. Their greatness wasn't accidental. It was deliberate, forged through years of sacrifice, pain, and insatiable hunger to win. Michael in particular became like an older brother to me from the moment I entered the league. He saw something in me, maybe a reflection of his younger self, and he shared invaluable lessons that shaped my approach to the game. I listened intently, absorbed every piece of advice, and applied it. Because learning from those who came before me wasn't about imitation, it was about refinement. Their wisdom gave me the blueprint, but it was up to me to take it to another level. Talking to these legends made one thing clear. There was no secret formula to greatness. It was all about relentless work, the refusal to be outworked, and an almost obsessive attention to detail. They dissected every aspect of the game, from footwork to mental strategy. It wasn't about just showing up, it was about completely mastering every element of their craft. And that resonated with me deeply. If I wanted to be among them, I had to operate at that same level of dedication. The cost of obsession. What set these legends apart was their attention to detail, their relentless drive, and their obsession with the game. That's what I focused on. Some players have passion, but aren't willing to devote their entire lives to it. And that's fine, it's a choice. Family, personal commitments, other priorities. If basketball isn't your number one focus, you can't expect to be the greatest. For me, it was all or nothing. I saw it as an opportunity, a challenge, one that I embraced. But that level of dedication comes at a price. If you were a high school friend or a cousin, our relationship suffered. That's just the reality. And I was okay with that. The people who truly love you understand who you are. They let you be you. And when you reconnect, you pick up where you left off. But everything in between, that's lost. People often talk about balance, how you should find time for everything. But when you're chasing something bigger than yourself, balance isn't always possible. You can't be half in and half out. If you want to be the greatest at anything, it requires an unshakable commitment. And sometimes that means making sacrifices others wouldn't dare to make. I never took vacations with other players. I never traveled just to relax. Why? Because I never wanted to look back and think, I wish I had done more. That wasn't an option for me. Fans spend their hard-earned money to watch you perform, and that's exactly what you owe them. Your best, every single night. It's your job to be in shape. It's your job to be strong enough to compete at the highest level. As a competitor, I wasn't about to make excuses. I wasn't about to say, oh, my back hurts, I'm sore. If I had to go up against Vince Carter and the Raptors that night, then I was going to show up and play, no matter what. Pain was part of the process. Exhaustion was part of the process. The moment you start using them as excuses is the moment you stop being great. I trained my mind to override discomfort. If my body was screaming for rest, my mind would say, no, we keep going. Because I knew the difference between a champion and an average player wasn't just skill, it was the ability to push past limits when everyone else gave in. I remember nights when I'd finish a game and go straight to the gym. People would ask me why, as if I had something to prove. But it wasn't about proving anything to anyone else. It was about my own standard. I wasn't satisfied with good enough. If I missed a free throw in the fourth quarter, I'd shoot 100 more that night just to make sure it never happened again. If I felt my footwork was off, I'd spend hours refining my steps. There was no such thing as too much. There was only what's necessary to be the best. People sometimes misunderstood my intensity. They thought I was distant, that I didn't care about friendships or socializing. But that wasn't true. I cared deeply, I just showed it differently. If you were my teammate, I wanted you to win as badly as I did. If I pushed you hard in practice, it wasn't personal. It was because I saw your potential and refused to let you settle for less. Some players couldn't handle that, and that was fine, but those who embraced it became champions. There's a reason I connected with guys like Pau Gasol, Derek Fisher, and Shaq in the moments that mattered. We didn't always agree, but we shared the same goal. We fought for the same thing. And when you go through battles together, real battles, you earn a respect that lasts forever. At the end of the day, I wanted to leave the game knowing I had given everything. No regrets, no second guessing. That's what true obsession looks like. And while it may have cost me certain things along the way, I wouldn't have had it any other way. The Raptors game. This actually happened. In 2000, we had a game against Toronto, and Vince Carter was dominating the league. My back was completely messed up. But what would people say? Kobe's missing the game because of Vince? He's ducking the matchup? Absolutely not. So I told myself, your back can hurt any other day, but today it's not an option. He's gonna have to see me. And that was it. I went out there and played. This was more than just a game. It was about mentality. If I let the pain dictate my decisions, where would that end? What happens the next time I'm sore or banged up? Do I sit out then too? That's not how greatness works. Greatness doesn't negotiate with pain. Greatness doesn't make excuses. If you want to be great, you find a way. You override discomfort, push past limits, and handle your business. That's what I did that night, and that's what made moments like these defining. They set the tone, not just for me, but for my teammates. When they saw me play through pain, they knew they had to do the same. They knew that on our team, we didn't take nights off. We didn't duck challenges. We showed up no matter what. Decision-making process. When I look at making a major investment, my process is pretty straightforward. First, do I understand the business? Second, can I contribute in some meaningful way? Third, what are the barriers to entry? And finally, what kind of leadership does the company have? Are the founders obsessive? Have they built a culture of obsession? If those four elements align, that's when I move forward. This approach isn't limited to investing in businesses. It applies to every major decision in life. It's about seeing things clearly, stripping away distractions, and focusing on the core fundamentals. In basketball, it was the same. If I was going to add a move to my arsenal, I had to ask, does this fit my game? Can I execute it at an elite level? How will defenders counter it? What weaknesses does it expose? Every decision, no matter how big or small, had to be backed by logic and intention. When I retired, I took that same mindset into business. I studied, learned from experts, and surrounded myself with people who challenged me. The transition wasn't about reinventing myself. It was about applying the same principles of preparation, discipline, and execution to a different field. One of the biggest mistakes people make when shifting careers is thinking that they need to start from scratch. But if you've mastered one craft, you already understand what it takes to be great. You know the importance of preparation, work ethic, and perseverance. You just have to apply those lessons in a new way. Same determination, different work. My schedule now looks different. I'm not personally writing every word of the novels. I'm not animating the films. What I have to do now is ensure that the obsessives we bring in are constantly challenging themselves to do their absolute best. My role is to push them to look in the mirror, self-assess, and keep raising the bar. Leadership is about empowerment. It's about surrounding yourself with talented individuals and creating an environment where they can thrive. I've been part of teams where accountability was everything, where there were no shortcuts, where every single person was responsible for bringing their A game. That's how I ran my basketball career, and that's how I run my business. If we have a project and someone says, yeah, I can do that easily, that's not the project we want. The ones we chase are the ones that make people say, I don't know if I can animate that, or I have no idea how to write that story. Because through that curiosity and challenge, we push boundaries and reach levels we never thought possible. That's how I run the studio. Fear of failure is what holds most people back. But if you're not pushing yourself to the edge of your capabilities, you're not growing. In basketball, I never shied away from taking the last shot. I never worried about missing. Why? Because I had already put in the work. I had taken those shots thousands of times in practice. I had studied the angles, the defenses, the scenarios. When the moment came, I trusted myself. That's the mindset I instill in my team today. It's not just about making great content. It's about redefining what's possible. It's about seeing an idea and saying, let's take this further than anyone has before. That's the Mamba mentality. It's not just about hard work. It's about vision, execution, and the relentless pursuit of excellence. And at the end of the day, that's what it's always been about. Whether on the court or in business, the goal remains the same. Be the best. Push the limits. Leave a legacy that lasts beyond your years. Kobe's Achilles injury. You're playing against the Golden State Warriors. The score is 1-0-7-1-0-9. You guys are fighting for a playoff spot. You go up for a shot, then suddenly, boom, the Achilles injury. You still hit the free throws. You walked off the court, you got the surgery. I went into the trainer's room and my kids were there looking at me. I looked at them and said, it's all right. Dad's gonna be fine. As a parent, you have to set the example. This was just another obstacle. It wasn't going to define me, cripple me, or force me to leave the game I loved. I was going to leave on my own terms. And in that moment, I made my decision. I'm coming back. I'm doing this. You don't get to the top by accident. You don't become the best by hoping for it. You make a choice every day, every practice, every moment to be relentless. Success isn't about talent alone, it's about resilience, it's about pushing past exhaustion, ignoring the doubts, and proving to yourself that you can go further than you ever imagined. So the question isn't whether you have what it takes. The real question is, are you willing to do what it takes